Episode 83. Something's bugging me.
This is the One Extraordinary Marriage Podcast, home of the 7 Days of Sex Challenge, featuring your hosts, the authors of the groundbreaking new book, Stripped Down, Tony and Alisa DiLorenzo.
Welcome back to One Extraordinary Marriage, where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of intimacy. You're here with Alisa DiLorenzo.
And Tony DiLorenzo.
And I've got a little giggle in my voice because this doesn't happen to us very often, but we actually just started the podcast about 30 seconds ago, and Tony went off completely on a different tangent. And I'm like, well, that's not where we're going tonight. So this is take two.
Yep. So let's run with it.
Take two. Hope that you all have had a wonderful week. We've had one full of lots of adventures in many different ways, and some that have really, brought our marriage to the forefront. Mm-hmm. And what we do here with One. And this weekend, both here in California and also in Ohio, both of our high schools had their 20th high school reunions.
Yep.
So yes, in case you're wondering, we're 37 and 38 if you can't do the math. And really just an amazing opportunity this weekend. I did not attend my high school reunion. I'm living vicariously through all of the pictures that are being posted on Facebook. So thank you to the class of 91 from Watterson High School for posting those pictures. But really need to just see those friendships from the distance and to see familiar faces. But we did go to Tony's reunion. Tony was on the planning committee.
There was only 3 of us on the committee.
Okay, you were still on the committee.
Yeah.
And Tony was the ASB student body president.
Yes.
When he was in high school, and so I didn't really have a choice but to attend the 20th reunion with him.
It wasn't just that. We didn't make my tenure here.
Did you have a tenure?
We did have a tenure.
Okay.
You made your tenure?
I did go to my tenure.
You did. You went to your tenure. So we went to my 20 year here. And your class has them every 5 years. So
yeah, we're good like that.
We'll be lucky if we have a 30 year.
Okay.
So.
And, I have to say, so much smaller reunion. Tony's graduating class was a lot smaller than mine. But just a really neat opportunity. Once again, we don't realize the impact that this podcast has on people, or the impact that our actions have on others. And, so I found myself in a room with, there was probably a total of 35 of us?
Yeah.
35, 40. And, having the opportunity to talk to these people that went to high school with Tony, who have listened to us on the podcast, people I don't know, who, know me as a face and a voice, but I no clue who they are. Well,
and for me too, a lot of these folks I have not seen in 20 years. Mm-hmm. I went to Banning High School and graduated in 1991, left, and honestly didn't stay in touch with many of these folks.
Right.
Just didn't. Through Facebook now, yes, but to actually see them face to face and talk to them and see what's going on, this was the first time in 20 years. Mm-hmm. So it was really fun, and for Alisa and I to just sit down and, like Alisa said, to talk to them about how the One podcast has touched their lives and their marriage was really, really cool. And I gotta say, for me, it's something. It's a dream of mine for us to get out there and start speaking more, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to do it. Mm-hmm. One of the problems we have right now is just managing an 8 and a 5-year-old and family, and how do we make it happen? Mm-hmm. One of the big things is, my full-time business, the Dent Dude, pays for all the bills. There is fear on my part to jump ship and take this to the next level with speaking and marriage retreats and other engagements of that nature. So there's a little bit inside of me that would love to see this grow more, because we are having an impact, obviously, in your lives who are listening and others out there. It's just tough. And so it was one of those weekends, though, where I just felt like, wow, we need to be working more towards that. Yeah,
it was really neat, because I talked to a couple of your classmates, who have listened to us, over the last year plus. And, it's funny because one of the gals, Nina, comes up to me and she's like, yeah, she goes, I tried some of the things that you've said. And her husband was standing right there, and she's like, he didn't get it. And, so it opened up the conversation to, sometimes you have to clue people in. If you're trying something new that's completely out of the ordinary for what you've done in the past, then yeah, you do have to sometimes give them insight to the fact that you're doing something different. And
you may not think you have to, but out of the ordinary, if it is out of the ordinary, they're not maybe catching on. So it's always nice if you're doing something new, just give your spouse a heads up. Be like, hey, I've been listening to this. This is something they've said I should be trying to do. Can you get on board? Do you understand what I'm doing?
Or just a heads up.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we look for a reaction from our spouses, and when we don't get it, I heard this from a couple of people this weekend. Well, I tried it, but I didn't, it didn't work for me. And it really, sometimes I think it's just because your spouse doesn't know what you're doing. And if you've never done it before, they're like, what's going on? And so sometimes, like Tony said, you just say, hey, just trying something new. You don't even have to have a reaction to it. I'm just letting you know that I'm going to start doing this, whether it's the I love you because, or, sending a text during the day or whatever it is. Just keep at it. Trust me, they're going to like being on the receiving end of that, whether or not you get this big, I'm so glad you sent me that message today. Let's face it, we don't always do that, but it's always nice to know you're appreciated. Right. But just a lot of fun. One of the things I told Tony on the drive home last night was, even though I'd never met, I think I've only met probably 2 or 3 of the people that were there. I was like, okay, tell me what they were like in high school. And I'm laughing at the fact that, 20 years later, I could peg how they were in high school, because some things just, don't change. I mean, you are who you are, whether this is how you were in 1991 or 2011. So it was just really a fun night, and hearing, some of the stories and looking at their pictures. So those of you that have high school reunions or college reunions this summer know that we were traveling down that memory lane, with you as well. And it was fun to hear stories about Tony when he was younger, and just some of the adventures that they had in high school, and to see some of these friends.
And before, many of these guys and gals I went to school with from kindergarten all the way through
high school,
senior year. Yeah. So
these Banning's a very small community, and so it wasn't like there were a lot of different schools in a district that they were going to. And,
no.
And so, these people have known each other since they were, little squirts.
Oh, yeah. We only had one elementary, one middle school.
And then the high school.
And then 2 like a 4th grade school and a 5th grade school. But that's
weird. But anyway.
That's just the way it was set up.
That's the way it was set up. But, it's fun. This was the first time that Tony and I have been in sort of one of these social situations where we're so much kind of in each other's territory. Mm-hmm. Where I was going in, and I, with the exception of 2 people that I knew, was really walking into a room full of strangers. And it's amazing how through this podcast and through the speaking that we've done and through sharing our lives with you, the room doesn't stay a room full of strangers long.
No, not at all.
And once you start talking about marriage, everybody's kind of like, oh, well, how and why? And the podcast really becomes a catalyst to share this message, but also to really get to know people. I really found out some interesting, neat stories about what people want to do with their lives and what their dreams are. And when we talk about podcasting, we talk about writing a book. And I know you and I have talked about this on the podcast before. So many people have that desire to write a book inside of them.
Yeah.
Like, I want to write this book on
whatever.
XYZ. And so it's neat to be able to say, well, we've written a book, and, a couple of people that are, eyes wide as saucers, big eyes. And, they start talking to you about it, and you're like, what, you can self-publish, and being able to add to someone's dream by saying, you can do this.
Right.
It is definitely a labor of love, and you better be passionate about your subject, because it's going to try you on so many different levels.
And make sure your spouse is on board with you too.
Whether they're co-authoring it, or they just have to support you.
Or they're just supporting, yeah.
Either way. Because it's not, this one husband that I was talking to last night who has a desire to write a book. He's like, yeah, he goes, I know it's going to be a lot of research. And I said, yeah, and it's going to take a lot of time, because it's not, he goes, I know, it's not like you just write it and it's done. And I said, absolutely. I wish it was, because, we'd write a lot more books that way. But, when you go through it, and, I had the opportunity to share with him how once you get that book into a finished product that you can share with other people and you start to hear about the impact it has on their lives, you realize that the hours upon hours upon hours and revisions and drafts and shelving it for a while and pulling it back out and shelving it again and completely reconfiguring it, it's all had a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever your dream is, you just got to stick with it. And, sometimes it ends up, the final product is not exactly what you started out with, but still the dream is realized.
Right. And as Alisa brings that up, we're on episode 83 this week.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're coming up on 2 years of podcasting for us, and we have a listener survey for you guys. And we want you to fill this out and really take it to heart if you could. Answer it, as best as you can, and give us your feedback. Go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com. You'll see the listener survey on the right-hand side. Just click that button. It'll take 5 to 10 minutes. And the purpose for this is, one, we want to know who you guys are more than just the emails and the voicemails we get and talking to you on Facebook. Secondly, we want to know where to take this podcast and this show. What do you see that you like and dislike?
Mm-hmm.
Where could we make changes? Is it too long? Do you want it shorter? Do you want specific segments in the show? We've run the same way for 2 years, almost 2 years now. We've made some adjustments as we've heard back from you, but this is really something we want to dive into as well, because we're here to serve you, and we want you to get the most that you can out of each show. So be honest, be truthful. If you have more than what is there and you really want to go in depth a little bit more, please email me at asktony@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. I would love to have some conversation with you. We're always learning. We're always growing.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, I just feel there's time for a change after 83 episodes of doing what we've been doing. I don't know what that change is, and I want to hear from you, so that way, if we go down that road, it's not completely off basis. What are you laughing about?
I'm laughing because I love the show the way it is. And so your desire to change it, I'm like, oh.
It's changed for good, though.
No, I know it's changed for good.
Okay.
I like what we do, and I like the way we do it. And that's not to say that I'm not open to changing it. I just also, in some respects, and you as our listeners can let us know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I understand that. But at the same time, there's always areas to grow and adjust and impact more lives.
True.
So when I'm looking at our show, I'm looking at it going, okay, we have an awesome listenership, but how do we get out there and impact even more lives? That's the way I see it.
I know.
Okay.
I know. And those of you that have already responded, thank you.
Yes.
We have already begun to get feedback. You guys have found that on the website, and we do appreciate that because it's already starting to just give us a better picture of who's listening to the show and areas that, are working really well. And, just it helps.
Yeah.
Totally.
This is a comprehensive listener survey.
Mm-hmm.
So please just fill it out, oneextraordinarymarriage.com. Let's hit our week.
So Thursday night.
Okay, we've been leading a small group on Strip Down Our Book at Church,
which has been amazing. This has just really challenged us, and it's also kind of shaping where the future
goes.
It goes with the podcast because they're bringing up a lot of good topics. But so we go and do the small group, and we come home, and for probably the last 2 weeks, Alex has just been complaining that his head itches.
I think it's been more than 2 weeks, but
okay. So I don't know how long. It's been a while, but he's an 8-year-old boy, and who sweats really hard.
He's been
plays
playing
really hard. Swimming, just doing all this kind of stuff. And so, we're like, okay, well, maybe you need to, maybe you're not washing your hair. Okay. So we're, doing all this kind of stuff. So this has been the last few weeks. And so finally Thursday night, he's just like, Mom, it really, really itches. And I'm like, all right, you know what, honey, let me just go Google what this could possibly be. So I go and I Google it. And sure enough, when you type in children's itchy scalp or something to that effect, the first 3 or 4 I'll come back with check for head lice. And I'm thinking, there's no way my kid has lice. We haven't been in school. Where would we possibly get lice? But okay, I'll check his head.
And this is, mind you, about 9:15 on Thursday night. And we're all a little burnt and tired just from a long day.
So sure enough, I go over and I check Alex's head, and what do I see? I see a little louse walking around his head. And I'm like, oh, good grief. Really?
Like alive.
That's alive. Not a good thing. So, of course, he's all like, oh, I have lice. Let me go tell Dad. So he runs into Abby's room and tells Tony and Abby, I've got lice. Great. And thus starts the 48 hours of lice infestation in our home.
Right. Because once Alex had it, we had to check Abby.
And, of course, Abby has live lice in her head.
And we're not talking one or two. We're talking multiples.
Yeah, I can't remember how many live ones there were. Enough that it was just getting
gross.
So Tony runs to the Henry's, which is more of a natural food store, and talks to them, gets tea tree oil, comes back, and start putting in their heads. And we're finding out that we have a much more serious problem here than just a lice or a louse. And so I'm going to Walmart. Mind you, it's now 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, because we've given the kids showers and everything. And the tea tree oil is combined with your shampoo, and it just helps. We're going to go all natural here. There are other products out there, and probably some of you have used them. They're very heavily chemical based. We're just not into that. So
10 o'clock, Alisa's running to Walmart.
Yep.
And buying all of the natural stuff. Come home, we start putting this, lice-free gel into our kids' hair. Mind you, this product has to sit on their hair for an hour.
Right.
So we're looking at like 11:30, 11:45 before we can even take it off their heads.
Right, because you have to take this gel and literally just every single inch of their scalp and their hair, you have to massage it in and just get it in there, make sure it's all there, and then you put a shower cap over their head, and it sits on their head for an hour. So, like Alisa said, it's 10:30 by the time this is done. So now at 11:30, we need to get this stuff off. And it's not just a simple like, hey, comb through real quick and you're done. No. And mind you, our kids are passed out at this time. They are we threw a movie in and just said, hey guys, just chill. They are passed out. And Alex, for one, and he knows it. We make fun of him, and he laughs like there's no tomorrow. When the kid is out, the kid is out.
Yeah, until his body is ready to wake up, he's not doing anything.
He's not going to wake up. And so I'm on the ground sort of trying to rouse him up. I'm like, Alex, come on, dude. You got to get up. You got to get up. And he's heavy. He's a big, lean kid, strong. 75 pounds, I'd say, at this point in time. Sure. And I'm just trying to pick him up. And then, he's just sitting there just completely groggy.
He's totally boneless when he's sound asleep.
And so I'm getting him going. Alisa's getting Abby going. You have to comb through once, get out as much as you can, do a big old wash, scrub out all that gel, do another comb through. And then after that, we also had something else, like another type of gel that you put him to bed in with.
Right. So the other part of this is that while the kids were having their hour with it on their heads,
yes,
I find out that I've got lice.
And yes, Lisa has lice too.
So because I'm like, I should probably check my head. And so I go into the mirror and like right in front, I'm like, standing there in the mirror. It's so funny. Like you guys can see me doing this right now because I'm actually pretending like I've got the mirror in front of me. And sure enough, there's a little booger just walking around my hair. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? So I've got lice. So not only do we have to treat the kids, we've got to treat me. And then if you've never had lice in your house, I'm going to share with you that it requires washing everything. So in the matter of 1 hour, when we discover all of this and start this process, my laundry basket, well, it wasn't even a basket. I mean, the mound of laundry between all the blankets and pillows and towels and clothes, everything was probably 4 feet high.
Oh, it was just astronomical. And you just got to wash everything and dry everything on high heat.
Everything's on high heat. Starting Friday morning at about 7, my washer and dryer ran until about 4:30 that afternoon. And then I was finally like, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't even care if I'm done.
Yeah. And so you're probably all sitting there going, okay, so you had lice. Great. How does this deal with marriage? Well, this is the thing. And this is where we find it interesting, because at times when something like this hits, how do you work under pressure together?
Right.
You know, that's where this show is going, and we're going to talk about it's how do you guys react under pressure. And I'll tell you, for Alisa and I, it was one of those occasions for us where we just looked at each other and we were on the same page
to the point where, you know, Friday Tony and I are talking, and, you know, Thursday night we're just going. It's like, okay, you get one kid's head, I get one kid's head, we get both their heads going, then he's got to take care of my head, and, you know, we're just doing this, and it wasn't like, you do this, no, you do that, no, folks, it's Thursday night. I'm, you know, on day 2 of the 3 days that I have to initiate sex. Obviously, we're not having sex, so, you know, not only are we dealing with all of this, but Tony knows that he's not getting any sex for the next 2 days because I'm probably not even safe to be near, in addition to the fact that we've got bugs all over.
Right.
You know, and so he calls me on Friday just to check in, see how things are going. And I've had this amazing revelation that lice really was not such a bad thing for us to get. And he's just like, what are you talking about? Like, Alisa, we have lice in our house. And I said, but think about it. We discover that we have lice in our house at 9:30 at night, after we've come home from small group, kids have played all day, and what happens? We spend the next 4 hours, because I don't think we went to bed till like 1 or 1:30.
It was almost 2.
Taking care of the kids, taking care of the house. Our kids miraculously did not cry when we were running these crazy little knit combs through their hair, which our kids' heads they're very tender-headed, and like the whole yanking thing. So they're not crying when we're doing this. They're in pain, and we obviously don't want to be hurting them, but we've just got to get through this process. And he and I are just, you know, the kids are in front of a movie, we're just going through the comb, we're just doing it together. You know, we're both getting tired, but you know what? It just has to be done. And I find myself on Friday talking to him on the phone going, how awesome was that last night? Like, we hit on all cylinders. We're exhausted. You're checking in on me today, which I love, because I just need to just tell you that I know you know I'm tired, but I just need to tell you that I was tired.
Yeah.
And you know what? The kids are dealing with it. We're all dealing with it, and nobody is getting cranky.
Yeah. And here's some things I want to just point out, and some key tips that maybe that can be a takeaway for each of you guys when you get into this sort of this crunch time. And for me, years past, I would have just been like, oh my gosh. And, you know, I would have spent a lot of energy and a lot of time making up all these excuses why I couldn't help. Or, you know, this isn't my deal. You go take care of it. I got to go to work tomorrow. Or I got my last day and I did complete Insanity this week. So it was like my second to last day of completing Insanity. I have not missed a day. I could have made up all the excuses in the world. And for those of you out there, I think one of the biggest tips is instead of wasting a bunch of energy on trying to make excuses why you can't, just get in there and do. And I will tell you, that was one of the things that I had to realize very quickly, because once we found out what it was and what we were dealing with, I just had to sit there very quickly and go, okay, either A, I can just get in here and help out and do everything I can, or I can start putting up a fight, which wasn't going to do me any good. It wasn't going to do the family any good. But you guys know, just like I do, we only have split seconds to make those decisions. And we have those choices to make each and every day. So when you get into a situation like that, it may take you a couple of deep breaths, but just realize that you can waste a lot of time and energy why you can't. Maybe just do it, and you'd be surprised what can happen in your marriage and the bond that you have together.
Absolutely. You know, and that was part of that reflection on Friday when we were talking. You know, I mean, I could take us back 3, 4, 5 years where I would have been the one up with the kids Tony maybe would have been doing some laundry. Like that would have been the extent that he would have helped out. But I would have been the one running to both the stores. I would have been the one massaging heads and combing heads and rinsing heads and, doing all the kids stuff. Getting totally ticked off that the extent of his contribution was going to be doing the laundry. Now, don't get me wrong. We had so much laundry to do. That would have been helpful, but I needed his engagement with the kids. And so him doing that without me having to ask. I mean, it really does kind of tie into to last week's podcast on just manning up. I mean, you just did it. You knew what needed to be done and didn't have to ask. Right. We have 2 kids, 2 heads.
It was a really cool bonding experience, actually. When you have 2 kids that are dealing with it, we were sitting out in our garage. We both had our lice combs. Kids are watching a movie in the garage, and we're just sitting there side by side. Oh man, I found one. Is this one? Yes. And we're talking. The kids are pretty much engaged. We're talking with them a little bit. But Alisa and I actually got a bond through this, which is really weird because you don't think about in a time of like, gosh, you're dealing with lice and all, and it's late at night that you're bonding. But we actually did, and it's in these little things that we don't think that are big in our lives, in our marriages, where you can still have such a bonding experience. And I really do believe you have that choice, just like I had that choice, guys, to go, okay, am I going to go after this and help out, or am I going to make excuses? And so
we'd be having a much different podcast.
Oh, we totally would. And I think a lot of you understand that. A lot of you have been through this. We have been through this where it becomes a blame game. And so I wish I could say, oh, it just comes so easily, but I think it's just this transformation that happens over time when you start really engaging your spouse, you're engaging your family. And even though it sucks, you still just stand up there and just go, okay, I'm going to do it. Don't get me wrong. When my head hit that pillow, it was lights out. Lights out. I mean, I was done.
Needless to say, we did not get up at 5:15 to do our workouts the next day. But it's interesting that you bring up engaging the family too, because I was talking to a girlfriend of mine on Friday, just kind of getting her caught up. She had left a message, a couple days earlier. I was just like, oh, I need to call her, and so we're talking, and she goes, is this an answer to prayer? And I said, are you kidding me? Like I pray for lice? But as I was talking to her, and we, go off on another tangent, I realized that one of the things I have been praying for is the opportunity to spend more time with the kids and to be more engaged with the kids. And let me tell you, when you've got lice in your house and so your kids can't play with their friends over the summer, and every 2 hours I was roughly checking their heads to see what was going on. So I have to be, we're talking, we're spending time together. And for our son, physical touch is his love language. Mm-hmm. And so while he didn't appreciate the little knit comb, he loved the time with me and Tony going through his head and just the massage, because you have to massage them, putting all these creams in, you're massaging their heads and just spending time. And I realized, we were talking about God's sense of humor. This is really kind of a funny way to get me to spend more time with my kids, because I had to clear my calendar for Friday. Not that there was a lot of stuff on the calendar, but we couldn't go do the things that I had wanted to do. And so it was like, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to watch movies, and we're going to, color, and, we're just going to lay low. Your friends can't come in the house. We can't do these kinds of things. We're just going to be together. And I realized, you know what? Not only was this a really great opportunity for Tony and I to see where we've come in the last few years. And don't get me wrong. I mean, we still had, little things over the weekend where, you just misfire. But also just to spend the time with the kids and to realize that, we called this episode Something's Bugging Me, just kind of to play on the lice, but to realize that anything in your life, if you look at it with the right perspective, can be a blessing. Mm-hmm. Lice this weekend was a blessing for our family. Now, don't get me wrong. My children will tell you that having lice is miserable. And I agree. But the lessons that we learned and the perspective that we have by having had lice in our family for the last 3 days has been a priceless gift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I look at my relationship with my husband and say, you know what? When push comes to shove, when things are really yuck, he stepped right up. I didn't have to ask. You know, he's just like, do you want to, you know, first thing out, Henry's. Okay, who's going? And he took off because I was still in the preliminary stages of just kind of getting our bearings on everything. So he's out the door. You know, all throughout the night, even the next day, all this weekend, it's just been this give and take so that not one of us finds ourselves completely depleted. And that's what you want in a crisis situation, but not just in crisis. You know, it's taking that same skill set and bringing it to daily, you know, kind of your normal everyday activities. It's, you know, some of what we talked about last week where, you know what, this needs to be done. Okay, who's going to do it? You or me? And not having the, well, I don't want to, but okay, we both know the garbage needs to go out. Can you, you know, I'm sweeping out the garage. Can you take the garbage out? Sure. You know, you're saving me from sweeping out the garage. It's making the bed in the morning so that the other person doesn't have to. It's, hey, I know you're going to be out this afternoon. Can I run to Costco? You know, you're going to find that your marriage is going to run a little bit smoother when you approach it from an attitude of service. And that's really what we had this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Our marriage had a service perspective on it. It wasn't, well, what about me? It was what's best for our family right now. You know, and having that, you know, I was just like, oh, you know, it's like I was teasing Tony, you know, we get into bed. Well, actually, it was Friday morning. We didn't even make it to bed Thursday night because it was so late. And, you know, like I know it's my time. You know, I'm like, okay, now it's Friday, and I know we're going to be exhausted on Friday, and, you know, even Friday night.
Well, and then Friday night's sort of funny because we're still dealing with all this. And at this point in time, it's a real big push because I want Alisa to come to the reunion.
That's right. That's the other part of this whole drama.
I want her to be at the reunion, and I'm having to come to terms that she may not be able to make it. Because if she has live lice, she's not coming to the reunion and infecting everybody else. I fortunately did not have any, so that's really cool. But I remember just falling to bed on Friday night, just super tired. And, you know, again, it's a late night because we're just dealing with the kids and everything that's going on there. And Alisa, one of her favorite things to do before bedtime is to read. I mean, Alisa can read, and she just loves it. But I look over and I go, turn off the light. You're going to be cranky tomorrow morning. You know, and she just shot a little, I need to read. And I just said, okay, I'm just letting you know that I know you need your sleep. So just make sure you get to bed at a decent time. And so even within this period of time where we're really connecting, there are still those instances where, hey, she snapped at me. Honestly, I didn't get mad. I just rolled over and I went to sleep. I said my piece. I just, and my thing was too, and I just said, if you get up tomorrow morning and you're cranky because you didn't get enough sleep, please do not take it out on me. and she did it. And that was good. I didn't fight her tooth and nail to that. I just go, hey, it's cool. I'm going to sleep. And again, I just fall asleep because I was just so darn tired. So just tired from it. And
but that you know, let's talk about me getting to the reunion, because that was a big deal. And, you know, once we knew that I wasn't going to my reunion and that I was going to yours, and for a number of different reasons, you know, now I'm suddenly faced with this situation 24 hours ahead of the reunion where it looks like I'm not going to be able to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, that impacts whether or not the kids can go to their grandparents, which they really wanted to do. But again, no live lice, or you're not traveling with live lice. So we needed to make sure they got it under control. And then, you know, me as well. And I knew that he wanted me to go. You know, we've been together. I mean, it's our 20th reunion. Tony and I have been together 17 years. So,
yeah,
you know, it's kind of one of those things that have been a big part of his life since, you know, they graduated from high school. And he could have been, and in the past would have been, a real bear about the fact that this might not work out the way he wanted it to.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have been,
I would have been
past,
very irritated.
You would have been really irritated, and we would have all felt the brunt of that, even though this was a situation completely out of everyone's control.
Right.
And instead, you're just like, you know what? We're going to do everything we can to get everybody where they need to go. You know, we'll treat the kids. We'll do the extra treatments. You know, we're going to be aggressive with this, and we'll make the final call Saturday morning. And that's what happened. And everybody got to go to their respective places. I mean, our kids, this natural stuff that we're using smells like licorice. And I think my kids are just totally burned out on licorice, the smell right now. But you know what? It's working. And they tolerated it. We tolerated it. We worked together and had a really great weekend. You know, it kind of brings us full circle to how we opened the show. But you know, I really want you guys this week, as you think about, you know, whether it's the normal everyday stuff that you're going through, or when you're in a crisis situation where something completely unexpected throws you for a loop, how do you and your spouse react? You know, do you come at it from the attitude of service, where you can say, okay, what can I do right now to make things better, or at least to be moving things forward?
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't been if you can't answer that question, or you haven't been doing that, now's the time to start. Because I will guarantee you that when you make that perspective shift, you're going to see changes in the feeling of your marriage.
Yeah.
Because even though we've been working this road for a couple of years now, seeing our reaction to each other on Thursday night and throughout the weekend, you know, it gave me the opportunity when my daughter asked me, well, do husbands and wives, are they still boyfriend and girlfriend? And I had the opportunity to tell her, yeah, you know what? I am your daddy's girlfriend. I'm his wife and his girlfriend. And when you're working on the same page, when you're doing that together and serving each other, you have that dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pretty sweet thing.
Yeah, it totally was. It was a great experience, and we hope that you guys can have those in your marriage. You know, take the steps that you need right now. Work on one of the 13 keys that we talk about and Strip Down. Take it for a ride for 30 days. Give it a go. See what happens. See the change that happens. The worst thing that could happen, if it doesn't do anything in 30 days, you can always go back to where you were. Mm-hmm. And Alisa and I look at our marriage every single day, and we just go, hey, what can we be doing? Where can we be working on it? What changes can we make? And every step of the way hasn't been perfect, but we've made changes, progressive changes over the last 4 years. And those changes are where we are today. So if you're sitting in a rut, or you're sitting in a hole, and you're going, well, that's just not going to work for me, take a 30-day challenge of some sort. Be it communicating with each other. Be it looking at your finances. You know, be it digging in spiritually with each other. Whatever it may be, go take a challenge for yourselves and see what happens. All right? Have yourselves a great week. Please get over to oneextraordinarymarriage.com. Take the listener survey. We want to know what you like about the show, what you dislike about the show. If you have more questions or comments, hit me up. Ask Tony at oneextraordinarymarriage.com. Again, enjoy your week. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage podcast. We would love to hear from you. You can go ahead and give us a call at area code 858-876-5663 or send us an email to info@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. The website is oneextraordinarymarriage.com, and while you're there, you can sign up for our Marriage Minute Monday newsletter, and you can also purchase Tony and Alisa's new book, Strip Down. It's available now in print, audio, and ebook formats. Also, the One Extraordinary Marriage podcast has sponsorship opportunities available now. If your business is interested in sponsoring this podcast, please contact us at oneextraordinarymarriage.com.